Good afternoon. Today looks like it is, 1:51 in the afternoon. And my name is Sherlock Lee Barker the Fourth, and I am the guest host today for Book Talk, where we talk about literature. And we happen to be a nice day here in Wisconsin. It's a nice, sunny, mild day, supposedly in the 70s. That says 76 there on the dashboard. Anyway, Michael contacted me for this 10-minute video at TikTok, and I guess it's 3 minutes at YouTube to fill in for him, as he's been having some problems walking on his feet, and so that is what I'm doing. So I hope you don't mind if I work some of this out in front of you, impromptu, on a moment's notice. Let me see what we have in Michael's book bag here. This looks like a football book. Well, I'm not interested in that. By the way, what's on the dashboard here? This looks like children's horror or something. Campfire stories, not interested. What do we have here? A simple children's book, not today. What have we here? Well, children's classic, if that's true. Nancy Drew, if there was such a person or such a writer. I'm afraid I'm not an expert on Nancy Drew from, that one originally was from Simon & Schuster, book publishing. Now here we have two that you might be interested in as I pull them out with one hand. We have this, I'm going to call this video, which you can look up at TikTok and YouTube, 10 minutes at TikTok and 3 minutes at YouTube. I'm going to call this Unequivocal Malice, Part 22 in Michael's series, where he analyzes his own two thriller novels, Unequivocal Malice and After Dark. So let's take a look at these now, shall we? And this will be part 22 in Michael's literary series, which he is calling Unequivocal Malice, sometimes Malice, part 22. That is what the front book jacket looks like. And there is the front book jacket of his second suspense novel, After Dark. One thing Michael has noticed, at the risk of repeating ourselves, is that there's a man on the cover of this book of mine, and really we're not sure who he is. There's speculation that he might be the sheriff in this plot, or he might be the middle-aged resort owner. Those are the two most likely characters. The two younger reporters in this novel, where these about half a dozen people are working on a homicide case in a country sheriff's department area, small town community, rural, and so we have those half dozen characters. A couple of them do match up with that. On the back, we have the back book jackets of these. As you can see, they list the ISBN number and the publisher on the back book jackets, and they have some photographs of Michael and that kind of thing. There is a headshot, mugshot, and there is a full, mostly complete body shot, three-quarters body shot. So, as you can see here with Unequivocal Malice, the book is laid out in such a way that it does actually similar to a children's book or non-fiction. It does label some of the chapters. So we begin with part 1, Trouble in Centerville, prologue, and then chapters 1 through 16 on this page in Roman numerals. And it goes on to have several parts to Unequivocal Malice. The middle part is the past, which Michael discussed recently, and the last part where they track down the murderer, and they work on the case and solve the case. So this is a means of talking about the book without actually detailing the ending. The middle part goes back to the past, as we have stated previously. So here we have things like Chapter 25, The Past, the 1970s. Morehouse sized up the shot, which looked challenging. The cue ball was touching the blue-striped 10 ball. After surveying the table, he realized there were no other balls he could sink, and blah, blah, blah. I think what we're saying here is, in the middle of this suspense novel, we have a reference to billiards and pool. So again, if a book publishing company was looking for someone interested in writing about sports, this would be a possibility. Certainly, this is not on the level of, let's say, the famous movie about Minnesota Fats or something like that. But this is on one of the levels on page 156. Let's go to the bottom of the page there. The cue ball was near the back rail. Well, certainly there we have nothing extremely exciting happening in that sentence there. Again, let's take a look further on into in the past. Back in the day, Morehouse was the new owner of the vacant land, which he planned to sell relatively quickly. So that was a speculation that might be the resort owner with the checkered past named in this manuscript Ray Morehouse. It might be him on the book cover. So interesting that the publishing company noticed that character. Noticed middle-aged characters. The sheriff is assisted by his zealous deputy, who gets into trouble in this plot. But the sheriff is a middle-aged man with a little bit better judgment than his younger deputy. The past 1980, Ray, Ingrid Jacobs exclaimed, her cheeks rose-colored and a bubbly tone in her voice. It's good to see you. It's good to see you also, Morehouse replied. Morehouse was glad to have been invited to the gathering of about 50 people at the home of his boss, Bill Jacobs. In 1980, and President Jimmy Carter, like his recent predecessors, John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Gerald Ford, and Richard Nixon, grappling with the federal government's budget issues. By the time the primaries had ended, Carter was running against Ronald Reagan and John Anderson, the independent. As you recall, back there, this says 1980, Jimmy Carter was elected president, and he ran against I believe, the appointed president, Gerald Ford, one of the few, I believe, unelected presidents in the United States. I'm sorry, I have the wrong date. I have 1980. That was when Ronald Reagan was elected, the popular Republican, and that was following the 1976 election, was what I was referring to, when Jimmy Carter was elected following the Watergate scandal involving President Richard Nixon, in which John Dean and Attorney General John Mitchell and Mr. Nixon's most trusted assistants, John Ehrlichman and Bob Haldeman, they all testified at the Watergate hearings at the Congress in Washington, and this led to a long, many decades of other such investigations. As you recall, Mr. Nixon was pardoned and claimed executive privilege and did not testify at the Watergate hearings, but he did leave his president job early. So we do have some back in the day here in part 22, Unequivocal Malice by Michael Parker.